So, like you probably figured out by either the name of this video or by the screenshot I put at the beginning, or by I'm sure something else obvious, this is a WCW 2001 save, but I'm not starting from the start because originally this was a fun save, but things have sort of gone well, so I figure why not try a whole new TEW series since we've got another year till 20 and see how people like it. So to start off things, whoops, that's the contract, not my player. So yeah, I'm playing as Roddy Piper. I'm not actually using him in the ring and all, but I figure he has like a real life past as a booker in like Portland during the 80s, and in a weird world where Bischoff holds on to WCW, I could see him in a weird way being given, the book, especially since various people like Hogan and such aren't around. So speaking of which, let's look at my roster. So to begin with, we've got, and I'll do this sort of by I'll by main eventer, upper mid carder, all that usual fun stuff. So let's do some filtering. We'll start out with our main eventers. So main eventers. Let's start out with Booker T. Booker T's, he's Booker T, the guy who was actually getting a big push at the end of real life WCW, came in WF, sort of got not buried but not used well for a while, but eventually became a guy. But in this so far, he's sort of been my top babyface kind of, but not quite. But let's just look at his match history real quick. So yeah, he started out by jobbing to Booker T at the Great American Bash, then at Bash at the Beach. Both times were screwy because it's Scott Steiner. Then he shockingly lost to Canyon at Clash of the Champions in August because that was part of Canyon's big push. But he eventually went on a roll. What happened is basically he won some matches. He beat Shane Douglas and Dustin Rhodes at Fall Brawl, and then he beat Diamond Dallas Page in a number one contenders match in a face-face match in October to set up the Starrcade match for the title versus my friend and yours, Scott Steiner. And then at Mayhem, the return of Harlem Heat as he beat Rick and Scott. So yeah, that sort of sets up. And as for popularity wise, he's been solid, a solid rise up since May. And he's oddly over in New Zealand, Toku, for reasons. And that reason, his opponent, Scott Steiner, World Heavyweight Champion. Now, he didn't start that way, but let's look at his short match history. So yeah, he beat Booker T, then he beat Booker T again, and then he beat DDP for the world title because Page was our first initial world champion because I figured in a brand new WCW, actually putting on a face to start with would be a good plan. Then he beat Sting to retain the title. He beat Sting to retain the title again. And then, like I said before, he had the sort of setup match with his buddy Rick, with his brother Rick against Harlem Heat. Other top baby faces, like I said, DDP, blue collar, legendary gimmick because it's DDP anyway. So start with him. He started out, at Big Bang. Remember that first pay-per-view that was supposed to be the reboot? He beat Sting in a face-face match to win the title in not a great match because Sting's kind of in time decline. He beat Liger to keep the title at the Great American Bash, which was a weird sort of angle where I did DVD would face anybody in the world, and Bischoff brought out Liger because I had nobody else to really do a quick match with. He beat Canyon at Bash of the Beach, and sort of Canyon shocking the world, beating Booker, he sort of came out of nowhere to get the title shot. Then he, lost to DDP, but then he came back and beat Canyon in a rematch. Then he lost to Booker T in a match during the title shot Starrcade, and then he's gone from there. So, and his actual opponent at Starrcade is I'll reel in a little bit here. So beyond that, we've got also Dustin Rhodes. Dustin's sort of just been Well, he started off as basically he started in a feud with Jeff Jarrett, and yeah, it was first Jarrett and Flair versus Dustin and Dusty. Then it was Jeff Jarrett and Dustin feuding, and eventually Booker, he got basically in an elimination match, not elimination as in people losing, but sort of like, okay, this whoever wins this match will get a future chance at a title shot. And then he eventually, Ric Flair eventually turned face. And then there was, a big match at Havoc where it was Jarrett, Kanyon, and Douglas taking on Ric Flair, Conan, and Dustin. That's totally a team that makes sense. And here's Flair turned on Conan and Dustin to form a new Four Horsemen with Jeff Jarrett, Kanyon, and Shane Douglas, as you can see up here. So yeah, we've been doing that. Jeff Jarrett, yeah, he's just been sort of a officially main event, then really upper mid-card heel. Originally feuding with Dustin, then feuding with Ric Flair, and Flair turned face, and now, part of what he's been doing since then is, as you can see here, he's been part of the New Horsemen. Canyon's sort of been like, well, let me just pull it up to show. Canyon's been like my one, I don't want to say like success story, but he's been like my guy who's I've been really been pushing. So Kanyon started out, he lost to DDP in sort of a match, for a semifinal match. Then he, sort of, because he lost to DDP, he eventually got a rematch for the title. Then he got in a feud with Booker T, which he surprisingly beat, Booker T. Then DDP beat him again. And then he got involved with, the Jarrett Douglas team that eventually turned into the Four Horsemen. And yeah, now we've got that feud going on. Rick Steiner's been Rick Steiner. You know what he is. He's Scott Steiner's brother. That's the reason he's still employed. I mean, he's not terrible, but he's also, like, wouldn't be pushed if he wasn't Scott Steiner's, brother. Flair, like I said, recently turned heel. I think he started out as a heel, then he turned face, and he turned back heel. So, but he's still Ric Flair, so he's still awesome. Shane Douglas, as you can see, he's the U.S. champion. He's been sort of stuck in a weird position so far. So, like you can see here, I was originally going to go first, like, some weird teams where he was with Rick Steiner, then I sort of just stopped doing that. Buff Bagwell and Shane Douglas was a team for a while, kind of. Then Jarrett basically was like sort of like the upper mid-card heels. We had the Ric Flair Shane Douglas match that maybe happened, but it was late era WCW, so nobody cared. Eventually, though, we had the heel turn, and then, as far as like sort of the weird gimmick I used at Mayhem, since the Four Horsemen won, they got any, match they wanted. Douglas wanted a U.S. title match, so he beat Alex Wright for the U.S. title. How Alex Wright became U.S. champion, I'll explain later. And then they've gone from here. And then Sting's been Sting. Like, he's Sting. He's not great in the ring anymore, but he's still hella over. So if we look at his match history, if you also notice he's currently injured but still working because, well, I need him to. So yeah, Sting, he beat Scott Steiner, he beat Ric Flair, then he dropped to Sting, he dropped to DDP rather, for the title. Then he, teamed up with Sting, and he teamed up with Ric Flair to feud with Jeff Jarrett and Shane Douglas. He beat Vampiro, which, that launched him to a title shot. So then, he lost to Sting. Basically what happened is at Fall Brawl, he dropped to Steiner. Then, like, I did an angle where Sting challenged Steiner. Sting beat Steiner to get another title shot, but then he lost again. And then, it's not seen here, but basically there's been a whole bunch of, brawls, attacks, feuds, etc. with Vampiro. So let's go to the upper mid card. Yeah, Alex Wright. Alex Wright, like, I've sort of been my, again, another pet project where I just sort of start randomly pushing him. So, basically, this is a case of I had nobody really else in my mid card to push because people had other things. So if you notice, he's basically kind of doing nothing, stuck in pre-show matches. Um, then kind of out of nowhere, you see here, he's in a whole bunch of pre-show matches in summer. Then in September, he comes back, he beats Hugh Morris, he beats Buff Bagwell in a non-title match. Then he, beats Wright for the title. He beats Buff Bagwell for the title. He beats Hugh Morris to retain the title. He drops the title back. He drops the title to Shane Douglas. But he's still sort of in the upper mid card, which I sort of where I wanted, because Alex Wright was talented. He just never got a shot because, well, he was Alex Wright. Billy Kidman is still a babyface. He's still Billy Kidman. So for the most part, he's been involved in tag titles feuds with Ray. See, they retained the titles. They beat Team Canada for the titles way back at Big Bang. They held those titles all the way till Halloween Havoc when Team Canada got the titles back. And then they've been involved in a feud with the Horsemen since then. Buff Bagwell. He's Buff Bagwell, so he's not great, but he was a decent upper mid-card guy. Then he continued to be Buff Bagwell, so I eventually started dropping him, because why not? So yeah, he won the U.S. title in a Battle Royal at the Big Bang. He beat, he won a 4-way with Bam Bam, Hugh Morris, and Conan. He beat Hugh Morris and Conan. He beat Trent Finlay. He beat Conan. If you notice, there's lots of people in the same mid-card, because again, it's WCW 2001 without any of the main event guys, so the mid-card's not the best. Then Chuck Palumbo. It's basically the feud, again, since the summer, has been Palumbo and O'Haire versus Jindrak and Stasiak. Eventually, Stacy Keibler became Palumbo's and O'Haire's manager. And then now, basically, at Starrcade, they're facing off in a losers must breakup match. Lance Storm and Mike Awesome, they're the World Tag Team Champions. They're both pretty good. And they both have, much better, bigger things in the future than just being tag champs. Ray Jr.'s, same as Billy Kidman. So, Road Warriors. Originally I just had Road Warrior Animal. I threw him down in my developmental territory, which I'll explain later, to train people, but I recently just brought him back up because I decided to sign Road Warrior Hawk and bring the Road Warriors back on basically a short-term deal. They won't be at Starrcade, but they will be after Starrcade, basically after the new year. Again, Sean Harris, same thing as Chuck Palumbo, feuding with Jane Jack and Stasiak. And like I said, Vampiro's been around. If you notice, let's see here, News Archive, yeah, okay, no big news, but like, basically, he lost to Sting, he got in a short feud with Vampiro, not with Vampiro, with Bam Bam Bigelow. He was sort of stuck in the undercard because Sting was doing other things, and then eventually I brought him back, and he's basically been a crap disturber since then. And now he's having a match with Sting at Starrcade. So now our mid-card. Again, our mid-card, Big Vito and Johnny the Bull, they're a mid-card tag team. They show up sometimes, other times they're on the pre-show. Cash. So, if you look at Cash's match history, so he eventually got in a tag team with Reno because they happen to have good chemistry, and they've been sort of a lower / mid-card tag team called the Silver City Rollers. And if you see here, yeah, they've sort of been aligned with Disco Inferno recently. Chavo Guerrero, he was Cruiserweight champion a couple times, so he started out, so he beat Shane Helms for the title, Cruiserweight title way back at Big Bang. He beat Shane Helms again, then he sort of just ran him in a sort of like an open challenge thing. Then Kaz Ayoshi beat him. He beat Kaz to retain the title. Then there was sort of like a three-way feud for a while. Then I brought in Taka, like sort of out of nowhere to win the title, but he was only coming in for like a short-term deal. So he beat, so Taka beat him, and then Chavo beat him back for the belt, and then he beat Shane Helms again for the belt, or to retain the title. Ernest Miller's, again, sort of random mid-card stuff. Jason Jett's been like him and Fit Finley. Like originally, like Jason Jett showed up. If we go back to his match history, so yeah, he was originally just like a jobber in a lot of pre-show matches. Then I had the idea of like have him surprisingly Disco Inferno a couple times, so he did that. Then he started teaming with Fit Finley, so they got in a feud with Reno and Cash, and now like sort of Jet's like a solid like mid mid Carter slash lower mid Carter. Speaking of Kaz, he's been with the Young Dragons. They've been having feuds. He was in a he was a like cruiserweight title contender in 6-man matches doing Kaz stuff. Shane Helms. So Helms is interesting because I'm finally pushing him as a little more than he was before. So Helms started out, in sort of like like I went over with Chavo in the Cruiserweight World. So what happened is basically Chavo Guerrero like lost to Shane Helms at Mayhem. He was done. He was just done. But then he got involved with basically DDP. So we go back to the show history. So Mayhem. So basically, yeah. Chavo, celebrates Helmut Shock because he, lost clean. So then, like, at Mayhem, I had DDP basically sort of like a unannounced match versus Mike Sanders, and DDP, won easily because he's DDP. But then DDP celebrates. Helms sort of came out, sort of thing was like, DDP was like, okay, what the heck are you doing out here? You just lost the Cruiserweight title. And then Helms just blasted him with a super kick. And then it was from there on. If we go back to the show history, like, yeah. Shane Helms in-ring promo, he basically, like, sort of building himself as, like, a legend-ish killer. And then there's sort of, like, let's go back and sort of the rest of my roster. So, lower mid-carder, yeah, AJ Styles and Air Raid, who isn't here, they've been a lower card babyface tag team. Chris Harris and James Storm, same thing. Lots of pre-shows, lots of jobs, but they might eventually get pushed. Hoovy, I brought Hoovy back to sort of in a way to do A, because I need more cruiserweights, and D, to set up like a new number one contender. Am I smooth? I just haven't got rid of him. I might eventually throw him to my developmental scorecard, or I might just like keep him around as like muscle eventually. And yeah, also Tajiri I brought in as also another guy to be as part of the Cruiserweight division. So yeah, he basically showed up, beat Hoovy, and who knows what he might do in the future. So opener, and this is really getting to the drag. So yeah, Evan, Lash, Shannon Moore, 3 guys who probably don't have much of a long-term talent base here. So Handsman talent is literally Alan Funk, Johnny Swinger, and Air Paris. One of these 3 people will be eventually pushed. You can guess who. So now let's go to, oh yeah, let me just check out. I think there's some people under Occasional Wrestler. No, okay, yeah, because I re-pushed Bricksteiner. So if you notice, don't have a women's division yet because, well, it's 2001 WCW. You don't have the time for that. So outer ring stuff. So Arn is a road agent. I might eventually bring him in for the Horseman feud. In ring, maybe, maybe not. Bill Serpent's the ref. Bobby Heenan's still one of our color commentators. I assume there was something where we told him, hey, care now. Charles Robinson is a ref. Don Marie was brought in as Jindrak and Stacey Yask's manager. Dusty Rhodes is Dusty Rhodes. If you notice, like, he came in, he initially did a feud with Jared and Flair, but he hasn't really done anything since then. Eric Bischoff's sort of been playing his later era um, Raw GM character where he's a heel-ish, but he's more interested in creating competition and ratings than anything else. Gene Orgelin's been Gene Orgelin. Oh yeah, Joey Lawler's been brought in as a manager. She basically showed up to help Caney win some matches, and now she's sort of ironically like the Four Horsemen's muscle, kind of. Yeah, and sort of like just sort of China's part of the Four Horsemen. Johnny Ace is road agent. And I just got signers, you know, Ho. Miss Jones is with Ernest Miller still. Stacy Keebler, like I said, is with O'Hara and Palumbo. Stevie Ray, was a color commentator. Was brought in back for one match with Harlem Heat, and that's it. Terry Taylor is Terry Taylor. Tony Schiavone is Tony Schiavone, and Tori Wilson is still with Kidman. So storylines. So yeah, storylines is Buff fall from grace. Where now he's basically the angle is Bagwell lost outright. He got sort of lost, and now he's sort of like doing a hostile takeover of the Silver City Rollers because he's Buff Bagwell, and Disco Inferno's Disco Inferno. But now they're feuding with the Young Dragons of Kaz, JV Noble, and Yang. Cruiserweight Fun is literally Chijiri showing up. The angle is basically that the original was a short tournament, which was the finals was going to be Hoovy versus Blitzkrieg, but Blitzkrieg missed his flight, and then Chijiri came in as the replacement and beat Hoovy to earn the Cruiserweight title shot. In reality, what happened was I didn't sign Chijiri in time, so I gave Blitz the win, and then Blitz was sent down to Developmental. Final showdown is the feud I went over, Palumbo and Stasiak versus Jindrak and Stasiak versus Palumbo and O'Hare. Sheamus was DVP, like I said, went over. Yeah. Sting versus Vampiro. Yeah, let's just go through some of these angles. So, Vampiro against current Sting, he's a new Warrior of Paint. Tango Michaud, Vampiro considered dark, nail in the coffin on Cher. Horseman sign and argue. Vampiro is quiet. He's brawled on show. Vampiro attacks Sting with his own bat. Sting sends Vamp through the backstage area. Double to key with Vamp. Vampiro sends Sting off the stage. Sting's funeral. Vampiro's feud with Paul Bears. No, not Paul Bear. Paul Bears. Lights go out. Steiners and Vamp then beat down Booker in a later angle, and then Sting from the rafters. Tag title feud is currently, basically this is all my other tag teams were involved in other stuff, so Fit Finley and Jason Jett sort of get the surprise big title shot by beating, Team Candidate in a 6-man, so there we go. Road to Starrcade is, ignore the thing here, it's Booker and Steiner for the title. And then we have Rise of the Horsemen, and whole bunch of people. And like I said, so we got stables. Again, Filthy Animals is Kidman, Conan, and Mysterio. Horseman is Jeff Jarrett, Kanyon, Ric Flair, and Douglas. I should probably add Lawler, but I just forgot to. Actually, Also, I forgot to make. So actually, what I can do here is, then the NWO is inactive, and I will probably never be bringing them back. Teams, again, we got 3 count, we got Air Raid, Skipper and Romeo, Filthy Animals, Jindrak and Stasiak, John Dragons, the Locker Room Leaders, which is no longer a team, Palumbo and O'Hare, the Silver City Rollers, Team Canada, the Insiders, the Mamalukes, and Shortly Buff. Titles, so Cruiserweight title, like I said, it started with Chavo, he won some matches, he dropped the title back to Taka, and then Chavo won the next week. US title, like I said, started with Booker T, so Booker T gave it up. Buff won in Battle Royal, Wright beat him, and then he dropped the title to Douglas. World Tag titles, again, Storm and Awesome beat him at the Big Bang. So so this was sort of the angle is Team. So actually let me go back to that real quick. So way back in May, what happened was Filthy Animals defeated Skipper and Romeo. Uh, Team Canada basically ambushed Palumbo and O'Hare in the entranceway. So this is basically like a short match. And then Kevin and Ray, basically came out, challenged Team Canada, and then beat them for the belts. Anyway. But yeah, go back to that World Tag Team. So yeah. Then Filthy Animals kept the belts till October, and then Team Canada beat them back for the belts. Like I said, the world title, Sting, he beat Sting for the vacant title. He beat Liger in sort of a weird defense. He beat Canyon. Then Steiner beat the belt, and then Sting's beat him twice since then. Creative meeting. Flair and Stinger still are two top guys because they're Ric Flair and Sting. Then Steiner, Booker T, and DDP. Next big things is Kaz and AJ Styles. Hot prospects. Juvie, I guess, is still a prospect. Kaz, Yang Styles, Lash. Talk to Talk. This is not showing anybody except Booker T. Kind of good. Showstoppers. Bray, Hoovy, Booker. Again, who's hot? DDP, awesome. Canyon, Steiner, Kaz. In other words, people I'm pushing. Who's not? Again, all my jobbers. Time to Climb, yeah. Ric Flair, DDP, Sting, all the people you expect. And Jones. Again, all the people you expect for late 2001. Let's see here. Announcers, just so you know. Yeah, for Nitro, it's Shivani, Hudson, and Heenan. For events, it's Tenay, Shivani, Hudson, sort of like the real sports field. Size, so yeah. So here's our history progress. So yeah, we've been basically slowly building back up to being good. Which we're getting there. In fact, I think. Yeah. So yeah. Importance, like, yeah, we're slowly getting there. Broadcasting. Yeah. So we have a bunch of pay-per-view, and then like WC Nitro is on FX and a whole other different channels. And yeah. Oh yeah. Quick look at our owner goals. Basically, can't fall between number 2, can't fall into debt. DC must get popular, Scott Steiner must be kept popular, Sting must be kept popular. Let's see here. Oh, yeah. Development. So the thing is, we have two child companies. We have NWA Wildside, which is just so people don't know, is a sort of famous Georgia indie that started crews of folks like AJ Styles and such, and Abyss. Then the other thing is the company I created, which is American Wrestling Queens, which is basically my sign the decent women in 2001 and let's teach them how to wrestle. So, my actual development territory. So on NWA Wildside, we've got Blitzkrieg, Brian Adams, again, and Brian Clark, mainly to trainer, Trance Prophet, Chris Rumbla, who you may know as somebody else in the future, David Flair, who I sent down here because, well, he's David Flair, Drew Knox, who has a future, Hellraiser, who is the former The Wall, Jack Evans, who is Jack Evans, Jimmy Tucker, who's just a ref, Jim Duggan, who's down here as a trainer, Joey Ryan, Dick Suplex guy, Johnny Devine, who was part of Team Canada in TNA, Keith Walker, who just looked like a cool WCW future guy, Ken Anderson, yes, that Ken Anderson, Kill Switch, who is just sort of a random guy decided to sign up, Monty Brown, who is Monty Brown, Paul London, Ray Gordon, Ayla Penn, that's the future Adam Rose, hopefully he won't become a domestic abuser in this reality, Ricky Van Deres, the future New York Days, or Judas from TNA, the Ballot Twins, Sterling James Keenan, Tank Toland, Teddy Hart, Tony Jones, who is a West Coast indie guy in the early 2000s, Tony Kozina, Trevor Rhodes, and Rice Trail. If you notice, I haven't signed a bunch of the typical people in 2001 you'd sign. Part of it is just because WCW probably wouldn't sign any of those guys, so I'm trying to play a somewhat realistic WCW save. You know, obviously they would eventually sign guys, but not before they came like had some sort of name. Oh yeah, and as far as the women, we've got Alexis Lurie, the future Mickey James, Allison Dangerous, Steve Corino's sister, Amber O'Neil, the future Bullet Girl or Bullet Babe, Angel Williams, that's Alexander Love, right? Annie Social, Beth Phoenix, Bonnie Maxon, uh, Cheerleader Melissa, Gail Kim, Katarina Waters, Kim Nielsen, uh, Kristen Astara, Lacey Lufisto, Maya Hosaka, Nikki Rocks, and Roni Jonah. So yeah. So again, schedules. You know what do you expect? I'm doing only a 2-hour Nitro, and that's it. Um, I'm probably going to change the names of these because these were dumb names that only existed because somebody had a bad booking idea in like 2000. So WCW, I'll figure out something as a name here. Same thing for the work show. Springtime team will probably hang around, and the rest, you know, I brought Black Clash of Champions basically just a annual pay-per-view because it's still a cool name. And Mayhem was a good name despite it being a creation of Vince Russo. Fearhead, I don't have one yet because nobody's quite ready. So, yeah, I have people with morale issues, various other stuff, but you know, it's 2001 WCW. So yeah, next up will be the actual Starrcade show, which I'll sort of, you know, go over the roster and such with you, not the roster, but the actual show at that point, and yeah, that'll be it. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy this, and yeah, next up will be actual Starrcade. Woo!